It's the Man Space Podcast. Take it away, fellas.
Thank you, voice girl, and welcome to another edition of the Man Space Podcast. Now, this is the voice of Russ, and with me, as always, who's been popping his fan all week to Fantasia's remix, the one and only Big Les. What's going on, man?
So, dog, hey, the bad part about that is I just heard it yesterday, right? So my wife is a big fan of the song.
Yeah.
So I ran and I said, babe, have you heard this? Thinking I had something new.
Something new, right?
Yeah, she already had it.
She's already on it. She's
already on it. I'm old. It was old news, but so,
I've yet to hear it. I've yet to hear it.
Still is.
Anytime it comes on the radio or anything, I'm changing the stations. I'm not doing it. I refuse.
Still banned from the household stereo. You better put it in your headphones. I'm tired of it. It's playing everywhere. Man, what's good, brother?
Man, I sent you a little text earlier today. Yes. Yes, I did. So I got to do it.
Food alert. The Man Space Podcast is talking about food again. Food alert.
I finally found them after all this many months. I found them, Man Space Nation. It is, got it upside down. There we go.
Upside down. There it is.
The Pop-Tarts ice cream. I finally found it. I'm not going to try it here on the air like I normally do because I didn't wait. I did go ahead and try it ahead of time, after I got it.
You couldn't wait. It's not that you didn't wait. You couldn't wait.
I couldn't wait. I really couldn't wait. And the bad thing is that I really could have. It's so overrated.
Yeah.
These big necks out here have been running around making this stuff sold out for months, all over the place. Everybody, this is the greatest thing in the world. Yes, these thick necks.
Oh my God!
Pissed me off all over the place. This thing has been sold out for months. Right? I go into the store. I just happen to walk down the aisle. It's like, oh, there it is. I walked back. I just grabbed the box. Walked up to the register. The lady's like, have you tried it yet? I was like, no, it's been sold out everywhere. I sent the picture to you. I sent the picture to Trevor. Trevor's like, hey, let me know how it is. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and pop one in the car. Like, this thing is so overrated. It's not like it's Haagen-Dazs in the middle or some Bluebell at least. This is like some great value brand strawberry ice cream in the middle that it has a bad aftertaste. This crap is so overrated.
Oh no.
Yeah, man.
Oh no.
That was a waste.
It's Pop-Tart, bro.
Yeah, that was a waste. The Pop-Tart is, that's have you ever just frozen a Pop-Tart before?
No.
Okay. The frozen Pop-Tart is a frozen Pop-Tart. It is what it is. It's a Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
Just the ice cream wasn't good in the middle.
Yeah.
It was a waste of money. Waste of money, waste of time. I nearly had a disaster trying to get home.
Oh my!
Trying to get rid of that mess. Brother,
did you finish it or did you throw it out the window?
No, I did finish that one. They're not big. I finished it. It's not big. They're small. They are very small. Yeah. So, and it's only 4 in the box. So I went ahead and just put the rest in the freezer since I knew I was going to come up here and show you. I just took them all out the box and put them in the freezer, so the wife can try it tomorrow. But this was an absolute fail. And I blame all these people on social media for this mess. It is your fault of the reason why I tried it.
That's why I don't do none of that stuff, man. Because these people, everybody's taste is different.
Yeah, you leave this crap for me. But
crazy.
Anyway,
we
got a special guest, and I'm going to go ahead and get to our guest because
this
guy, I tell you, there's something very special about this man. His name is Patrick Hardy, and he is not the typical disaster expert. There's no gloom and no doom and gloom scenarios, no scare tactics, just real actionable insights from the forefront of the world's toughest disaster challenges. Between setting a world record, a world record for 28 hours of non-stop CPR, building emergency shelters with Lego blocks, evacuating 240 cats in 90 minutes. Disaster Patrick's mission is to push the edge of what's possible in preparing for disasters. Manspace Nation, please welcome our special guest, Mr. Patrick Hardy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I appreciate it. I've dealt with a lot of disasters in my time, but bad ice cream and Pop-Tarts, that's a new one for me.
And it was a disaster, believe me.
When I was in college, I got one of the things I tried to do from time to time is try to make a little extra money on the side, right? So there was a really prestigious food science program at the university I attended, and I noticed there was a sign on the board saying, they're looking for food tasters, and so I thought, wow, great. And so it said it was all about mango ice cream. And I was like, mango ice cream, that's fantastic. And so I thought maybe they'll have 2 or 3 different flavors, Right. But I thought ice cream, that's gonna be an easy $50. That's easy $50. And you had to eat ice cream for like a half hour. What happened was, so you go into it's crazy. Like, go into this tasting room, right? And it looks like one of those interrogation rooms. And then basically in front of you, there is this metal, it's a dumbwaiter. Okay. And so the dumbwaiter, without anyone touching it, like it slides up, and then someone slips out this tray, and it's filled with different cups of mango ice cream. Lots of different types. Wow. And so over the next hour, I must have tasted 60 or 70 different kinds of mango ice cream. And I thought, how could you screw this up? And I literally, when I was listening to you talking about Pop-Tart, I thought, mango ice cream, that's mango ice cream. That should be self-evident as to how that should taste. But lo and behold, of the 50 or so I tasted, there was about 10 of them where I said, this is grotesque. This is nasty. Awful. I don't know who invented this. Like, who thought to themselves, I'm going to make mango ice cream with something else? And I talked to one of the food scientists later, and she was telling me that a lot of the flavors they had injected were ones they had artificially created in the laboratory. Right. So they were tasting them, and some of them had more, some of them had less. And so I was curious. And so at the end of it, she was just telling me all about it. Because I said, I probably consumed 2,500 calories, because each one becomes a little cup.
Right.
It says taste it, and then there were buttons 1 through 10, and you just push the button. You know what I mean? And so like, some of them were like, I was clicking one, I was practically screaming through the thing, how do you screw up mango ice cream? But lo and behold,
I did something similar to like that in Vegas, but it was beer tasting. And and we got paid for it at that. It's like, we sat there for about an hour and a half, and you're just trying different types of beer. And it's like they just keep bringing you different flights. So what do you think of this one? What do you think of that one? And it's like, okay, now I need a cab.
Well, it's just amazing because, they're always trying to push the limits.
I would have paid for the beer testing.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I think they do that when you go to a microbrewery, right? Like you pay like $10 or whatever. And they give you a sample.
Bring you 2 flights or something.
There you go. Right, exactly. There's and they're all in those little cups. They're in the little wood. I don't even know what that thing is called, but it's like a little server thing, and each cup's in there. You can try them, and there's like apple flavored ones, and there's banana flavored beer.
There's actually a brand new one that's opening up not too far from my house. And it opens up this Friday, and they're doing that. So I got a chance to talk with the owner of the place, and so I'll be paying him a visit. Hey,
all right. Well,
hey Les, you're frozen, man. Your video is completely frozen.
Here we go again. Here we go again. It's like that.
You're
that
delayed.
Pop-Tart ice cream you got.
Yeah, you're hearing everything that we're saying delayed. So let me pause for just 1 second while you let you drop out and come back in. So this kind of worked out just perfect for us because we have a disaster expert, specialist, preparedness specialist here with us, and Les is having internet issues. So well, Les has dropped out, so it's myself and Patrick here.
And make no mistake, when internets go out, that can be a real disaster because, like, I was just going to say this to you on the break there, which was, I work with a lot of campgrounds, like around the country. Okay, so
yeah,
and one of the things I did early in my career when I was a consultant was I used to have a 24-hour phone number. So this 24-hour number people could call. And then when I started gaining employees, I had someone else manning the phones. So anyway, so one night, I left the office, didn't think any of it. I got in the next morning. And when I got in every day, I used to get a report of all the disasters, all the clients that called in for various things. And I saw in there that they had a campground that had called in the middle of the night. And I said, well, what's this about? I said, somebody called about something on a campground. What happened? He goes, well, the internet went out. The internet went out. How is that a disaster? It's a campground. You're supposed to be outside. You're supposed to want to be outside in the trees in nature. And what I just discovered was, and I don't know how much you know about like outdoor hospitality, but there is a subculture in America of people who basically live in their RVs.
Yes.
They travel from place to place to place, and they just love it. A lot of the times it's retirees, right? They love it. They have these beautiful RVs that are better than some of the apartments I lived in my life. Yeah. And you just go in there, they got satellite, they got the whole thing. So anyway, so I said, how is this thing a disaster? How is an internet out in the middle of the night? And she goes, a bunch of people were trying to stream the final episode of Game of Thrones and the internet went out. So everybody was calling the front desk saying, get the internet back on. And they called us and said, we got to get the internet back on. So like there's a disaster right there. So there you have it. So,
yeah. So what I found, especially during COVID, when everything was shut down, a lot of the campgrounds were filled with workers. So they couldn't get hotels and things like that. So they were going to the campgrounds and staying there and then just, having a little car to take them in to go do work. A lot of nurses, a lot of construction workers and things like that in different areas are staying at these different campgrounds. My 9-to-5 world, I work in data networking. So I've been involved with some of these campgrounds and trying to put in internet and things in some of these places. So so I'm very familiar with a lot of that stuff. And yeah, it is very serious because we had a problem where it went out during the Super Bowl.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, that wasn't pleasant.
That creates a problem. That definitely creates a problem.
Definitely. But listen, how did you get into this field altogether? So, because I just can't see you just sitting there as a kid saying, you know what, I'm just going to go and just fix disasters. What got you into this field?
It ended up happening was I was a swimmer in high school. Okay. So I used to do the long distance stuff. Like I didn't do the 50s or the 100s. The ones where, people watch the Olympics. It's exciting because it's just there and back. When you're doing the 500, you're looking at 66 laps, right? So you're going, long distances. And so at the end of the swim season, they said, hey, how many of you guys would like to try out to be lifeguards? And so I thought, well, great, because the tryout to be a lifeguard was you had to swim across a lake. You had to swim all the entire way across. Then when you got the other side, you had to run all the way to the other side, and you had to swim a second time across and run all the way back. And I was without doubt in the best shape, not because necessarily I was the best shape of everybody, but it was because I had trained myself to do long distance swimming. So anyway, so I was a lifeguard for a summer. Then a bunch of guys said, hey, listen, let's all become EMTs. So I became an EMT.
Okay.
And then a bunch of guys said, we're going to become a medic. And I thought, well, why not? Already here, right? And at the same time, I was going to college. And I was trying to figure out what to do with myself. And I'll tell you this. I studied political science. That was one of the things I studied.
Okay.
And when you're a political science major, for those of you who are listening who are political science majors, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. When you're a political science major, everybody has a cause. Something that they say, I'm going to fix blank. I'm going to fix world hunger, abolish nuclear weapons, peace in the Middle East, whatever, right? So everybody has something that's really important to them. And I'm not trying to mock them, but I'm simply saying everybody had that. And then they would ask me, and I said, I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Then in August of 2005, we had Hurricane Katrina. And that was almost exactly 20 years to the day today.
Right.
And I remember distinctly saying, that's it. That's something that's solvable in my lifetime. If I take my academic background and I take my vocational background and I pour it into a glass, I bet I could create an amazing career. So here's what I did. I wrote a letter to the governor and I said, listen, I graduated top of my class in college. I'm a smart guy, but here's the thing. I don't know anybody. I'm a nobody. I don't have political connections. I don't have money. I don't have any of that stuff, but I would really, really, really like to come and work for you. And so I got a call like 2 days later. And they said, we've never gotten a letter like this before. Because I did FedEx. I didn't just stick it like in the snail mail. Like I FedExed it to the governor. And there was a letter inside and everything, right? And they said, here's the deal. You can come here. We'll give you a place to stay. And I ended up living in the police barracks because that's where they normally have the recruits for state police. And it was empty. Right. So they said, you can sleep there 3 squares a day because you're at the police academy campus. So there's food, right? Just as they would do for the cadets. And then they said, we'll loan you a car, a PT Cruiser of all things, a PT Cruiser. And you can travel and go into any meetings you want to. You'll work with this person. You'll work with the chief of staff. And you'll get a chance to go around and see what emergency management is going on with Hurricane Katrina. Yeah. And you agree to work for us 100 hours a week. Wow. And the pay is a whopping, get ready for it. Ready for this? $1,500 a month. And I said, that's the best deal imaginable. Deal imaginable. Because I got great experiences. I got to meet lots of people. I got to experience so many things. And for those of you who don't remember Hurricane Katrina, you were either too young for it or whatever. Yeah. I will tell you, it was a seminal event in disaster management. And I said, I have to be there. I grew up in a place called Mission Viejo, California. Mission Viejo, California. For those of you who don't know. Yeah. Real Housewives of Orange County, that's where I lived. Right where they lived, that's where I lived. That's not hyperbolic. I actually knew one of the Real Housewives of Orange County, and that's how Orange County I was. But I said, Orange County is not the place to be if you want to be a disaster professional.
Yeah, of course. Right.
So I was on the next flight to New Orleans, and I ended up living in Louisiana for many, many years. I just moved forward, and that's how my career progressed.
Wow. That is pretty amazing. But I want to go back to the opening that I read for you in your bio. And you mentioned it in there. It mentions that you set a world record for CPR for 28 hours. What was that experience like?
It was one of the most taxing physical and psychological tests of my entire life. And I'd broken world records before in push-ups. Like I'd done ones. I usually wore like 60-pound vests or 80-pound vests, and I do them for a minute. But doing it for that long, it's something else. It's something psychological about it where you can't look at the time. You just have to it's rote. You're going compressions to breaths, compressions to breaths, compressions to breaths. And I'll tell you how much more challenging it got. At the 8-hour mark, because I took breaks, they allocate 5 minutes per hour. Okay, for a break. Okay. And you can front load them, or I'm sorry, you can back load them if you want to, right? So you can go, so they say, if you want to go, say 3 or 4 hours, okay, and then you want to block out the 5 minutes, then you get 20 minutes off. Great. But then you got to go back to it just like normal. So at about the 8-hour mark, I was about to stand up. We had a routine break at that time. I think it was one of the first breaks I took. So I don't think I took a break for the first 6 or 7 hours. And anyway, at the 8-hour mark, I couldn't stand up. Couldn't stand up anymore, because when you're in a kneeling position, right, and you're just leaning back and forth, the blood flow gets cut off. It's like when when you're in high school and they call those things dead legs. Remember that? And they used to punch you in the leg or something like that.
Of course, right.
Imagine that in slow motion. Imagine somebody putting their fist on your leg and just holding it down for 8 hours slightly. And then I turned to my friends and I said, I can't get up. You have to help me get food and get water because I can't physically stand. And I literally had friends it's like they're like carrying me to the break room to get sustenance. I was drinking Gatorade by the gallon and everything else. You're washing your hands. But I tell you, by the end of it, you really learn a lot about yourself. You really just, and it took me a year to train for it. I mean, I trained for this thing every weekend. I started with 15 minutes and I went to 30 and an hour and 2 hours and 4 hours. And I did one 18-hour practice. But then the 28 hours, once you hit about the 24-hour mark, your body's like, I'm done here. Like, we're finished. But you keep going, right? But it was a really amazing, it was one of those experiences, it's nice to have the record on the wall and it is behind me here. But in the end, it's really for you. It's for your own personal growth. Can you say, can I push myself to my limits?
Wow.
Can I
that's pretty amazing.
Physical limits? I'm sorry, go ahead.
What was the previous record before you broke it?
26 hours, 1 minute. It was held by a British commando. And it was a nurse, but she was actually a combat commando nurse. You can have those in Britain. And she did it just the beginning of COVID. And then I broke the record just last year, September 13th of last year. And I jumped hers by a couple of hours.
So if somebody breaks yours, will you go back and try to get it again?
I don't know about that, but I will say that one of the things that I do try and find is I try to find new challenges, right? And so that's one of the things I tell people all the time. I say, professionally, you got to find something new. And one of the things you asked me in the beginning, I really liked, you said, what really brought you to this? When you were a kid, you didn't say, I want to be a disaster professional when I grow up.
Right.
But one of the things I did want when I was a kid was I wanted a job with variety. I wanted a job that was different, right? And I used to watch Law and Order, and I used to watch NYPD Blue. For those of you who are not, kids of the 90s, you don't know what I'm talking about, or the X-Files, things like that. So I thought, those people have cool jobs. I mean, they're obviously fictional, right? But I mean, the FBI agent, that's a real job. A police officer, homicide detective, that's a real job. Firefighting's a real job. But I discovered that I wanted to use something with my mind as well as my body. And in addition, finding a discipline that I can move it forward. I can make a contribution to it and change the way we do it. And I said, during Hurricane Katrina, I said, we're the most powerful nation in the history of humankind. And this is how we deal with disasters. This is the best we got. And so I just said, there is a chance for me to go out there and make a difference and really try to change the way we do this so that everyone understands disaster management can be done better, more efficiently, and it doesn't have to be this awful chore. And that's what I devote my life to doing.
That is absolutely awesome and very commendable. So Les and I, we both are out here on the East Coast, and we're known for hurricanes out here, earthquakes and things like that. And this year alone, we've seen this extraordinary number of natural disasters that have happened, with tornadoes and floods and earthquakes and things like that. But beyond the natural disasters, what other disaster management should people be preparing for?
Well, I put disasters into three categories. I put them into natural disasters. So just like you were talking about, hurricanes, floods, volcanoes, lions and tigers and bears, oh my, all that, right? So those things. But then there's kind of disaster called what we call technological disasters. So things like hazmat spills. I used to be a hazmat guy. I used to wear the big hazmat suits, the whole thing. And for those of you who recall, about a year or so ago, they had that horrible hazmat spill when that train derailed in Ohio.
Yes, I remember that.
And that was a massive one. There was recently a hazmat spill in Louisiana. There was a chemical accident. And so entire groups of people were told you have to evacuate because we have a massive hazmat spill. And also in technological disasters are things like transportation accidents. So just plane crashes, things like that. I even joke around and wrote about this in my book, something called Carmageddon. I joke about it, but it was a real thing. If for those of you who've ever been to California, no, Russ, I don't know, if, Russ, you ever been out to California before?
Yes.
Okay, so you've been to LA?
Yes.
Okay. LA's known for one thing.
Traffic.
And so I don't know when was the last time you were out here, but a few years ago, this had to be 10 years ago now, they decided that they were going to shut down part of the 405 freeway.
Oh, wow.
For construction.
Oh,
and what they did was the mayor, the chief of police of LAPD, LAFD, so the fire department, they had the National Guard and everything. And they told people, stay off the road from Friday, whatever the date was, August 1st, and don't come back till the following Monday, because we're basically going to work, because we obviously closing the 405.
Right.
Russ, you understand? I mean, because that's where LAX is, right? That's
of course.
That's getting out to the valley. That's how, you know what I mean? So, and they basically said, we're going to shut it down. Please stay off the road. But if for some reason you get stuck in that massive traffic jam, we will come to get you. They actually said that. And so they were preparing for what we called Carmageddon, because they basically said, if you are near the 405 freeway, you will get stuck in a traffic jam that basically you can't get out of until Monday. There is no way for them to come get you. Because, I mean, think about it. Hundreds of cars. I mean, the police, I mean, nobody can deal with that. And so those are things too. Every Thanksgiving or so, you ever hear about those car accidents that happen with like 40 or 50 cars?
Yeah, the big, usually up in the Mideast. Yeah.
Right. So those are technological disasters. And just what happened to your co-host.
Yeah,
that's a technological disaster right there, right? And then the last kind of disaster type is what we call security disasters. And that's the kind of stuff that are the real blood and gut stuff, acts of war, mass shootings, belligerent activity, acts of terrorism. Those are things that tend to fit under the security blanket. But those are the three major categories of disasters that we have. And those are the ones that I use when I talk with people all the time, because I try to say, keep it into one of those three, because basically everything will fit in there.
Yeah. It's crazy, because right now we have all these hoax that are going on at these college campuses across the country, where they're calling in and saying that there's a mass shooting on campus, and they're calling the campus security instead of the local police, and everybody's reacting, and it's just causing these huge panics. And they actually just had one here at the University of South Carolina just the other day, and it's just crazy, But and then the car thing, it had me thinking about just down in Atlanta just a couple of years ago. Down south we don't get snow like that, but they had a bad snowstorm that came through Atlanta, and everybody left their cars out there on I-85.
I remember this.
Yeah, and so people were stuck. They were stranded. People were stuck in their cars out there for over 24 hours, because cars were not moving, because people literally left their cars on the interstate. And and
that's what happens when people panic. That is what happens when people don't have a thought of, what do I do and how do I handle this situation? So people just start what I call emoting. That's what I tell my employees. Like, people are just emoting irrationally, because they're just trying to do something. They're doing the fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
And so that's why we break.
I don't know if I'm stealing any of your thunder here, but I was in the military, and I lived in Germany for a while. And when you get a driver's license in Germany, you have to have a first aid kit in your car. You have to have a fire extinguisher in your car. They make you keep like emergency blankets in your car. This is all part of your checks that and you can be ticketed and fined if you do not have these things in your car. And if there's a car accident or something, if you witness it, if you pass it, you can be fined and ticketed if you do not stop to help the person, if there's not already help there. Wow. And those are things that you don't see here, because people are so skeptical here of people and their intentions, that you look and see somebody on the side of the road, you're going to keep going if there's an opportunity. So, wow. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. What I was going to say is that's one of the biggest things I tell people is I say the fundamental assumption that you need to make in any disaster is that if I do nothing, no one else will either. Because you and I have also, whether it's in Germany or whether it's here, I'm sure that you and I have seen things on the side of the freeway. We've seen mattresses on the road, or we've seen a stranded motorist. I mean, not somebody who's trying to do something belligerent, but you know what I mean? Like someone was in their car overheated. I mean, I grew up in Orange County and there were hot days. Everyone thinks that it's like, it was like perfect weather every day. There were 90-degree days. There were 100-degree days. Cars overheat. And so when that happens, a lot of people say, not going to worry about it. Someone else will take care of it. And what happens is so many people make that identical assumption and then nothing gets done. So that's one of the things I emphasize. So what you say there, and I love how the Germans have done that, where they basically have said, this is part of your responsibility as a citizen. That you should try to help other people. And that's what I try to reinforce in folks. I say, it doesn't mean you personally have to go and try to fix the car. I mean, for example, I wouldn't know the first thing about any of that, but I do know enough of how to activate help for somebody. And that's what I think a lot of us need to kind of see. And so what you learn, and I'm sure things that you've reinforced through your time in the armed forces, is that you try and help people as much as you can. If you can't personally do it, that's okay. As long as you're activating to help so that they get the assistance. That's
Absolutely. Absolutely. We need to take a quick break. But before we go to our break, we got to let you know about our sponsors, and you guys already know who that is. It's Manscaped. Gentlemen, and the brave partners who love them, let's talk about landscaping. No, not your lawn. We're talking about personal property maintenance. Introducing from Manscaped, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, the only tool that makes trimming your hedges feel like upgrading your sports car. With precision blades, skin-safe technology, and a light so bright you could land a plane. This thing doesn't just mow, it glides. So say goodbye to nicks, snags, and that terrifying moment when your clipper sounds like it's eating your furniture. Listen, guys, use our code TMSP20 and get 20% off your first order and free shipping. Because if it's free, I'll take 3. So fellas, if you want your front yard to look well presentable, then get the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra from Manscaped, because your body deserves curb appeal too. So we are back with our special guest, Mr. Patrick Hardy. And September is known for Disaster Preparedness Month, but it's known for many other campaigns as well. But I think a lot of us had never heard it referred to as Disaster Preparedness Month. Can you just kind of tell us, like, what is the importance of having a month dedicated to disaster preparedness?
There we go. That's a disaster right there. Got to turn the mic on.
Got to turn it on.
Well, one of the things that people don't like to do is disaster preparedness. And so what they try to do throughout the month is that they try to spread out a number of different campaigns so that every single person gets an opportunity to get an idea of what's around you, how do we best prepare for disasters, and how do we get ourselves in a position where we can better respond to them and recover from them. And so that's the reason why the month was developed. It also just happened to also coincide with Patriot Day, which is obviously during 9/11, right? So they kind of coalesced it into one big month. That's kind of the genesis of it.
Now, when you brought that to my attention about it being Disaster Preparedness Month, I didn't put the correlation together. And now that you said, that's like, oh man, that's perfect timing. Wow. So I'm going to get deep for just kind of a second here, because, with today's political climate, we've seen so many cuts to FEMA, from staffing to funding, local government, national government. There seems like there's a lack of trust. You got insurance companies that won't even cover certain parts of the country because of so many disasters that happen in the area. People are very weary when it comes to the term FEMA. How can that trust be rebuilt?
Well, one of the things I say to people is, if you want to trust FEMA more, trust them less. That's really the way to do it. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is that you need to assume, and I do this in every disaster, and I work with small businesses, I work with Fortune 500 clients, I work with high net worth clients, I work with small nonprofits, I work with all kinds of organizations and people. And what I say to them is, I say, look, you need to assume that you're on your own. You need to assume you are on your own. When I was a kid, we were just joking about ice cream. I can't believe we got to mention ice cream twice in one podcast. But when I was a kid, I loved ice cream. I still do. I have to be really careful how much I have of it, though, because I'll pack on the pounds if I do. But when I was a kid, my parents used to give us ice cream after dinner. So we'd have dinner. It'd be something or other. It'd be something, and when you're 8, nothing healthy tastes good. Nothing at all. But you kind of scarf it down, and then you think, oh, great, I'm gonna have a dessert. And so one night, my parents didn't offer us ice cream at all. And we didn't have ice cream or anything. And I went to my mother.
To a child, that's a disaster right there.
That's a disaster. And I protested to my mother, and I said, hey, why is there no ice cream here? And my mother turned to me and said, there's something you need to learn about ice cream. It's nice, but not necessary. And that's what I tell people when I want you to think about FEMA. I want you to think about that. FEMA equals ice cream. Nice, but not necessary. Because see, the angst with FEMA is that people, I think, rely on them too much. And FEMA, there are things that FEMA can do, and there's things that FEMA cannot do. As a matter of fact, I have a video coming out on my channel in about 2 weeks where I'm talking about what can FEMA really do? What would happen if FEMA didn't exist anymore? And I tell people, here's how to exist without it. Because what FEMA does is they offer federal support to local emergencies. That's really what it is. And there's a chain. It has to go from the county to the state to the feds. So really most disasters are handled at the local level. FEMA only gets involved in the really big ones, the really big disasters. Where the president says, you know what, we're gonna get involved. The states asked us for help, and so we're gonna sign a disaster declaration that opens up all kinds of resources. But what I say to people is, I say, look, don't rely on FEMA. Pretend they're not there. Every assumption you make in a disaster should be that FEMA is not coming, that the ice cream is not being served tonight. If you do that, all of a sudden you can plan accordingly. Because my thought and my belief and the way that, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that here shortly, is the method and approach that I have is centered on you, not centered on the agencies around you or the government. It's centered around you because, just like you said, the political winds can change all the time. I mean, right? There are some presidents who are more supportive of FEMA. There are some that have been less. The current administration would be considered on the less side, but there have been other presidents very quietly that have been unsupportive as well, and some that have been more supportive. It really just kind of depended on the administration. But the focus that I tell people is don't worry about them. Focus on yourself, and there's a way to do that.
Got it. So we understand that you help businesses as well as individuals in preparedness, but what is one of the most overlooked things that people can do to help prepare their households and businesses?
One of the things I say is you need to have a center of gravity. You need to have something that is the center of your disaster preparedness. And for the most part, the common belief has been that's a disaster plan, right? We have these big, nice, long disaster plans, tells us all kinds of stuff. It says what to do. It says, okay, do this, do this, do this, do this. And you know what I tell people? Don't do that at all. What I challenge and the change that I've made is this. I think that it should be a disaster backpack. It should be something physical that you have with you. so that becomes the center of how you do all your disaster preparedness. Because one of the things that I show people, I've done this now many times, and in September, I have a series of videos coming out for National Preparedness Month. I'll have one video coming out every single day. And what I'm going to show people in those 30 days is, here is how to create a disaster backpack without writing a disaster plan. You can do your entire disaster preparedness without writing a single word on a piece of paper, period. Everything can be done with a disaster backpack. And there's a way I want to show people to do that, because then you feel like you have more of a control. All right. Whenever we have a physical object or we have something with us, we say, that gives me a sense of, I have a tool, I have a weapon, I have something I can take with me into this battle. And so that it's not just you versus the elements. And then instead of saying, well, I have a piece of paper that tells me what to do, I actually have a backpack, and that helps people to create a good engineering control of, this is something that is a good center of gravity. With small businesses, I talk about this all the time. We were talking about outdoor hospitality earlier. I work with campgrounds. I don't know how many campgrounds you've been in, but some of these ones are very, very, very spread out. I work with an outdoor hospitality property where you actually have to take an airplane from the lobby to the campground site. They literally have a Cessna 401, and it sits next to this little dirt strip. This little dirt strip. And so they check you in, you get on the plane, and they fly you. It's like, 10, 15 minutes, but still, it's a good distance, because there's, tree lines along the way. There's no road to get there. And so they fly them there, stop, they go out, they come back, and they pick up the next guest, and they just do it all weekend. And that's, to me, says that that requires a lot of independence, right? So what I tell small businesses are, empower your employees, empower them to do things. And they always ask me how, and I always say, give them the tools necessary and the policies and procedures so that they can do what they need to do without you. So they don't have to rely on you, the same way I was just explaining earlier about FEMA. Well, let's rely on FEMA. No. We do what we have to do without them. If they show up, great. If I get my ice cream tonight, fantastic. But if they don't, I'm fine with that too. And it's the same with employees. When I say this to small businesses, I say the first thing you need to do is let go of control. Let your employees do what they need to do. They're the experts in your business. They know how to take care of your guests. They know how to take care of your clients. They know how to take care of your customers. They know what to do. But if you don't empower them, all that is going to waste. And that is the biggest expense that I see with disaster preparedness, is when employers just say, I'm not going to let it happen.
Wow. Now, I see a lot of elderly people these days. I work with the youngest, well, not work with, but my church is the youngest group of 70-year-olds that I've ever seen in my life. You couldn't tell that any of them are 70, but there are a lot of people that are in situations where they're having to take care of elderly members or people with disabilities. And when you're dealing with those situations within your household, how should you prepare differently?
Every single person in your household should have their own disaster backpack, period.
Okay.
And this includes pets. So like, I have a cat. Okay. And trust me, I have evacuated a lot of cats in my lifetime, but when I'm evacuating my own cat, I make sure that my cat has what she needs to leave, because she's actually a very independent animal. So I have to be really careful, because she's so used to defaulting of, I'll just do my own thing. But like I say to her, I'm not leaving without you, because I live in a place where we have wildfires. I mean, that's the reality. If you live in Northern California, you are going to deal with wildfires. There's no way around that.
No way around it.
And so I always have a backpack prepared for her. It's not my backpack. It's not a pouch in my backpack. It's her own backpack. And I include all the things that she needs in there. I have parents who are elderly, and I bought them for Christmas. Each one of them had their own backpacks, and I filled it according to what they needed themselves, not what I think they needed, what they needed themselves. And so I just said, because then what happens, Russ, is that all of a sudden people can now take control of their own disasters. They can take control of their own disaster response, because they have their own backpack, they have their own supplies, they know what they can do. and they have the tools to be able to execute those things. And it's so simple to execute. And that's really the way I would do it. So that's what I would say to everyone listening. Every single person in your household, yes, that includes your 5-year-old. Yes, that includes your infant son. Yes, that includes your cats and dogs and parrots and Komodo dragons. Every single animal, every single what I would call dependent needs to have their own backpack, and every adult does as well.
So what kind of things should be in this backpack? Just, you don't have to give everything, but just say for you yourself, what kind of things are in your backpack?
All right, so this is what I call the 5-pocket method, and that's the method. And when and in the videos I'm going to be putting up this in September, I'm going to be laying out for you day by day by day exactly what to put in there. But just for us, for the time we have today, I'm going to say this: the first is physical. So you need the physical stuff, right? So what I say immediately to everybody: mask, goggles, gloves. Those are immediate things. So because if you're in a building, so for you work in a tall building, for example, you should have a mask and you should have goggles, because if there's smoke, I don't know how many of you have ever been to a smoky building before. It was really difficult to navigate. And it's not like what you see on TV. Not at all. It's not even like remotely close. So that's one of the things. So on the physical side, it's also things like water, it's your pharmaceuticals, it's all those things that are important to you to get you moving and ensuring that you have a baseline of things to keep yourself physically protected, right? Food is important too, but I don't want you to think you have to fill up your, fill it with your cabinet, because you don't have to do that.
Right.
But just getting some simple stuff. The second is psychological, and this is ignored so much. I actually talk to high schoolers a lot, and the first thing I say is I say, tell me something that really makes you forget about the world for a while. And everybody and kids say different things, but a lot of times they say video games. I say, okay, great.
Right.
So then your Nintendo Switch needs to be in your disaster backpack, because psychologically speaking, you need something that can relax you and focus you away from the disaster. For some people, it's a book. Some people bring Bibles. Some people bring like photos of family members. So a teddy bear. I've actually seen an adult male, big guy. He had a teddy bear in there. And I just said, doesn't matter. It's no judgment whatsoever. It's whatever works for you. That's what matters. So physical, psychological, and the third is personal stuff. You know what I'm talking about. Keys, glasses, things that you personally have to have in order to build. I mean, if you have issues being ambulatory, I work with those who are deaf and hard of hearing. And so I give them things. I say, make sure you have extra cochlear. You make sure you have extra batteries for your hearing aids, things like that. So, and then the third one is papers. And papers are not only the physical papers. So always have an ID on you, state ID or federal ID. I have old passports, for example. I have an old passport in my disaster backpack. But then also things like technology, which I sort of call e-paper. So it's like, make sure if there's a thumb drive that you absolutely have to have, you have all your pictures on it, take that. I mean, we're not going to leave their laptops behind, right? I'm sure you have been in many hurricanes. A lot of people are like, I'm not leaving my laptop behind. I'm not leaving my tablet behind, And then the last one is your phone. And so having your phone, and it isn't just having your phone, it's having chargers, including solar chargers and plug-in chargers and car chargers. I have one of each. And then also having some other way of communicating. So when I say phone, I also mean other ways of communicating. Like, for example, I have a walkie-talkie in there, and there are people who live nearby who have the other walkie-talkies in there so that we can communicate. Because cell phones, I've been in many hurricanes. For example, the one that hit in the Carolinas, Hurricane Matthew, that was pretty big. And in fact, I had a lot of places where I do a lot of nursing homes out there, and they had absolutely zero cell phone coverage. And Matthew was in 2016, I think. And that's so, correct. And it was totally gone. And so what I said was, walkie-talkies will always work because they don't interfere with law enforcement. They don't interfere with anything. And they give you a way to instantly communicate and do so in relative privacy. So those are the things. So those are the 5 areas: physical, psychological, personal, papers, and phone. It's like 5 Ps, right? So those are the 5 things you've got to have in your backpack. And those are because that'll give you the foundation to say, I'm recovered. Now I can start doing things in the disaster itself.
Yeah, I'm aging myself a little bit, but Sprint Nextel, man, that was great with with the little, push to talk in those phones, man. I don't know why that feature went away,
Well,
but
I was actually teaching a bunch of EMTs because one time per year, just for fun, I don't get paid to do it. I just do it at my old
mm,
EMS school. I always
mm,
teach the chapters on weapons of mass destruction and hazmat and
mm,
disasters and stuff to these 18, 19-year-olds. And I used to tell
mhm,
them, I say, when I worked in the rigs, when I worked the street, like we used to have Thomas guides. And they
yeah.
were like, what's a Thomas guide? And I was like, oh my gosh, you know what a Thomas guide is? And I was like, those Thomas guides were so unbelievably valuable because you could open to a page and be like G6, and you could like take your finger and go, oh, that's where it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's always a universal backup. So, like, for example, I train EMTs because they have to know how to use physical maps if the
Mhm.
technology isn't available. And there are times where you feel like you're aging yourself constantly because you're like, we used to have like pagers and stuff like that. Now they don't do that anymore. So it's all
Right.
gone. So
Right. So we've kind of talked about technology a little bit, but what role does technology play in disaster planning and maybe even a risk?
what I tell people is this: you buy it, you try it, but don't rely on it. That's what I tell people on any piece of technology. And the reason is because I see this far too often where people will buy that newest gadget, the newest technology, and say, oh, wow, I've bought into the marketing. This will work in every disaster. And I say, that is not the time to be relying on technology because even the best technology can fail during disasters. It is not difficult to put the technology from being this wonderful gadget to suddenly being a paperweight,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
what I say to people is I say, technology is just one of the tools. I have no problem with you relying on it. I mean, I'm being facetious when I say don't rely on it. But what I mean is don't rely on it as your sole means of conducting or doing an activity. Because
Mhm.
I see so many people who have these and they use them and the cell phones don't work. And now people go, I don't know how to talk to anybody. I have no idea
Yeah,
because I
that's
use my
true.
phone for everything, whether it's through
Yeah.
social, right, or texting or
Right.
calling, and
Yeah.
those suddenly aren't available. And now it's like, now what do I do? And so what I say is use technology as one of the tools, but not the only tool, because if you do, then you're putting yourself in a risk where it may not be available.
Yeah. I had an issue. My HVAC is actually in my attic, and
Oh,
it was starting to build up water to the point that the pan was overflowing in the attic
wow.
and leaking down the walls. And so prior to that, I have a big shed out in the backyard. I put a big solar panel, has a light switch out there so I can light it up anytime I need to go out there at night. I go out there, it completely fails. I can't find jack. I'm trying to find
Wow.
my shop vac, and I'm stumbling over stuff and falling down, and yeah.
I've been
So
there, my friend. I've been there.
so technology will definitely fail. Listen, we're running low on time on this episode, but I know you mentioned about your series that's coming up.
Mhm.
Please share with how the Manspace Nation can find that series, listen to it, and your social media handles.
Yeah, everything is at Disaster Patrick. And so that's my YouTube channel. It's pretty new. We got all kinds of videos coming up, and the official grand launch of the channel is September 1st, because for 30
Awesome.
days I'm going to take you from an empty backpack, to totally prepared in 30 days, and you don't need one sheet of paper. Zero. You don't need to write anything down. I'm going to show you what to buy. I'm going to show you the techniques to use and how to apply them, and some simple, easy drills, not things that take days or hours to do, just simple stuff you can do in your everyday life. And in those 30 days, I will get you truly prepared for a disaster with no disaster plan anywhere in sight, because I really believe very firmly, because I've been using this with my clients for so long, for 20 years, is
Yeah.
that there is a way of doing it so that you can engineer your own preparedness and that you can be totally on your own if you have to. And so that's what I'm doing for there. I have social media. My social media is the same. It's all Disaster Patrick. It's easy enough. We have some amazing videos coming out soon. In fact, the world record video of me doing CPR, that's going to be coming out in mid-September. We have a really special one. I'd be interested to hear what you think of this one, Russ. I have a special playlist coming out called Pimp My Backpack. So I don't know if you remember that show on MTV.
Yeah, with
Pimp My
Exhibit.
Ride. Yeah. So what I do is I take disaster backpacks from people around the country, and you know how they're going to look. I have seen some random ones, and I think you're going to get a nice laugh out of a few of them. And I take the backpacks and I turn them around and make them beautiful, and not just physically beautiful, but functional as well, and show people, what do you really need in a disaster? And so it's just going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot of great videos coming out. I show people how to do all kinds of things. You know, how do you escape a building when it's filled with smoke? How do you communicate to first responders? There's a lot of I teach people what's called the X code, which is a search and rescue code that's used by the military. You probably know about it, and it's used by first responders. I'm going to teach people how to do that. So I just want to show everybody that if you prepare for a disaster, you will never, ever, ever experience one, because in the end, disasters are all about making you weaker. I want you to go through a disaster and be stronger at the other end. And I think there's some simple tools that I can teach you. And I think that the channel is super fun. And go on my channel and watch the cat video. That's super. Everybody loves that video. We go on, then they watch that video, watch me chasing around cats for 90 minutes. So it's all fun. So it's a great video.
Absolutely. Hey, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. A lot of real world practical advice. I suggest Manspace Nation go out there and check out his site, check out his social media handles, Disaster Patrick. We definitely, after we get through this month and things calm down a little bit for you, we got to have you back on and kind of talk a little bit more, because I know there's so much more that we just scratched the surface on that we just need to follow back up with.
I would love to. I would absolutely love to come back on. We'll come back on. We'll talk about Pop-Tarts, and we'll talk about ice cream. We'll talk about all kinds of stuff. All very important disaster topics.
Very important disaster topics. Absolutely. We'll be back with a little bit more of the Manspace podcast. As we do each week, we like to close the show with just a little bit of inspiration. Let's be real. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, wow, I can't wait to triple check my to-do list and lay out my socks for tomorrow. Preparation doesn't always sound glamorous, but you know what's even less glamorous? Panic. And panic is what shows up when you skip preparation. Think of preparation as your quick but yet reliable sidekick. You might even roll your eyes when it nags you to pack your bags the night before. But when you strut into that meeting, test, or even a workout looking like you got your life together, that's prep working its magic behind the scenes. Preparation doesn't always eliminate challenges. It just gives you extra ammunition. It's like bringing snacks on a road trip. Sure, you could wing it and hope the gas station on the right has everything that you need, but wouldn't you feel better if you already had the chips in your glove compartment? The best part is preparation builds confidence, and confidence is contagious. When you've done the work ahead of time, you walk a little bit taller, you talk a little clearer, and maybe even crack a joke or two on the way. You know, the ones that you thought of in the shower. So here's the deal. Don't think of preparation as boring. Think of it as the future you sending the present you a little thank you note. Do a little groundwork now, and later you'll be high-fiving yourself for making your life a little smoother, brighter, and just a little bit more fun. Manspace Nation, stay ready, stay upbeat, and hey, if everything else fails, at least you remember the snacks. The snacks or even the ice cream. But listen, Manspace Nation, you know what happens every Monday night, WTMSTV.com. You got the Manspace podcast 2 days early before it gets released to the regular public. WTMSTV.com, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The new episodes get released. And then on Thursday on WTMSTV.com, you got back to back episodes of the Manspace podcast every night with Throwback Thursday every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So with Les having his disaster and he wasn't prepared for, we want to thank our guest one more time, Mr. Patrick Hardy. Make sure you go and follow him at Disaster Patrick. His stuff is coming out as September 1st. So as we're releasing this episode, his information will be out there. Make sure you go out there and follow it, check it out, and follow his tips, because there was a lot of really good information in this episode, and there's going to be plenty of good information on his website just to get you prepared. Be ready for anything that happens, because you never know. And that's the thing. If you're prepared for the unknown, you're always one step ahead. So Les isn't here to do his closing line. I won't do mine, but I'll do his. We out of here. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Manspace.
Whichever platform you listen to us on, make sure you subscribe and don't miss a show.
Remember to keep up with all the Manspace updates on our website, themanspacepodcast.com.
And you can follow us on Instagram at ManspaceNat1.
Until next time, Manspace Nation, he's Les, I am Russ, and we are out
of here.
Oh, my stomach bubbling.